And welcome back to the commentary section of today's show. This is going to be interesting to see how this format works out. So hello everybody again, and looks like in the earlier show we lost a few seconds of video, hopefully nothing too detrimental. There haven't been a whole lot of questions coming in, and I realize this is a very brief, short show, not a whole lot of need for questions, but now we're going to take all the questions that have come through us in the past minute or so. So let's see, Marvin PA is asking about my affinity training. Ooh, I'm glad you brought that up. I should have put up a thing here. Let me see, do I have that on here? Get the right mouse on here. Do I have my affinity training? I don't. Video, that's the wrong one. Anyway, I'm doing, I'll bring it up on the webpage. I'm doing a training series on Affinity Photo on my photoapps.expert site. And the first video, the first training was an overview, just a large overview of the app. And that was a couple days ago, and now I've lost my mouse. Honestly, how does this happen? Swear to God, there's some kind of weird radio interference in my building because all of my Bluetooth devices just have this random desire to go, just kidding, we're not here today. There, see, like it just went out, came back, went out, came back. I give up. We're not going to switch to that. God, that is weird. Seriously, what could be interfering with Bluetooth that much? I know old cellular phones could do that, which I don't have in here by any stretch of the imagination. But, God, that is so weird. Okay, here it is. This is the Mac Affinity overview. You see there in the middle. I would point to it with the mouse, but the mouse has just again decided to go away. That's the one we already did. And then the next session, if the mouse comes back, I will scroll up. There we go. The next session is next week, and this is on basic editing. And the idea here is that we will be going into very deep into this app. So to answer the question, am I doing full training? Yes, in the sense that we will have, I would say, at least a dozen separate live training videos about Affinity Photo because it's a deep app. It's really cool. The more I play with it, the more I'm liking it. So very long answer to a very simple question. Yes, there will be a complete training on there. Andrew Clark asks, where did you outsource your video editing to? Some service abroad or in the US? Would you recommend your service provider? Okay, so I tried using Upwork. I've used Upwork before. I love Upwork. If you're not familiar with Upwork, it is a service where you can put a job posting. It could be anything from a simple task to a long-term project, something that can be done remotely, of course, and people can apply from all over the world. Or you can search through people's profiles and you can say, show me people who have Final Cut Pro skills, English language skills, yada, yada, choose your list, and then it shows you people who match. You can read their profiles and then decide, okay, I want to reach out to this person. You write up a job description, and then either you open it for everybody or you just send that job description to the candidates that you like. And it shows on there what their hourly rate is and so on. And so I had picked a guy in Pakistan who his English language seemed quite good, his experience with editing in Final Cut seemed quite good, and that was all great. Unfortunately, the reality didn't match the fantasy. I think it was largely communication barriers, but what I ran into, the biggest problem I had was his unwillingness to do what I asked. He kept saying, but there's a better way. We can do it like this. We can do it like that. We can transfer files this way. We don't need to use that. We can do it like this. And I'm going, there's a reason that I want it done this way. So just to kind of summarize how this was going to happen, and it's not happening. I've canceled it, canceled his contract. We're not doing it. He wasn't working out that way, but we're also not going to try and edit the show anymore because of this new format we're doing now. But for those of you who are using Final Cut, you'll appreciate this. Well, for those of you using Final Cut who might have the need for a remote editor. I capture everything. This show, I captured a ProRes. That's what's being captured right now. So at the end of a show, it might be like 80 gigabyte file. Needless to say, I ain't sending that anywhere over the internet. So I got this huge file. Now you can, in Final Cut, go in, create a project, create proxy files, and you could, I suppose, take those proxy files and send those off. But that was a lot of work on my end beforehand. And the proxy file is still a full resolution. It's just compressed. It's using ProRes LT. I think that's right, ProRes LT. And it's maybe a quarter of the file size. So if I started with an 80 gig file, it's still 20 gigs. No, that ain't it. So what I was looking for is a way to take a down-resed and compressed file that I could send somewhere, get that edited, bring it back, and relink to the original source. So here's the workflow that we came up with. I would take my full-size ProRes file, drop it in a compressor, and I created not a droplet, but a preset that would scale it to half resolution, compress the hell out of it, enough that you could obviously still see it, enough to edit with, and of course hear it, but it really compressed it down to an MPEG file, and rendered that into a specific folder, into a drop folder, so Dropbox folder. Actually, we ended up using Google Drive, but whatever, into a shared folder, so that on the other end, basically as soon as this thing is done rendering, he's got it. And it's simple for me, right? I just pull my disk out of my recorder here, pop it into the computer, don't even copy it off the disk. I just take that file, drag it into compressor, drag on the preset, click go, walk away. And that's the extent of my involvement at that point. His instructions were to create a brand new Final Cut library. You had to create a brand new library. Create a new library, create a project in that library, and you're going to name them all the same. You basically, I'm told, name it the same as the project file is, which I had renamed, PhotoJoseph's photo moment, the date, and then a 1 or 2 word description of what it is. So name the project, the library, and the project the same as that. Import the file, the low-res file that I've sent you. Leave in place, right? You can't copy it into the library. You got to leave it in place. We need this library to be as small as possible, so leave it in place. Take that video file, right-click on it, and choose, not compress, what the heck is it? Oh my God, what's it called? It puts it into not a package, it puts it into not a bundle, not a group. It's like a group, it's not a group. I'm trying to launch Final Cut here so I can, great, and Final Cut's not wanting to, I'm having a day with this computer. Seriously, what is up with that? What is it called? Not a package, not a, I'll remember it. Anyway, it puts it, basically it's like nesting. It's what used to be called nesting. It puts it inside of another file, another package. Then you take that new nested sequence, whatever the hell, grouped, whatever the hell it's called, thing, drop that onto the timeline. Okay, this is very, very important. You have to put it into this little nested group thing and then put that on the timeline. Then you go to the timeline, you edit like you normally would. Edit, 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 edit. So you're editing, not a wrapper, that's not it either. If Final Cut would actually launch on this, what the hell is up with this Mac? Seriously. There's Final Cut Pro. Okay, let's launch it on here. Then you edit that. And then in the early stages, what I wanted to do is upload a video to frame.io. If you haven't seen frame.io, if you're a video editor, it is an incredible, incredible tool that allows you to, not encapsulation, I'll get it for you in just a minute here, Ben. Here we go. Final Cut's running. It is called Compound Clip. Okay, so you bring in the clip, you right-click on it and say make compound clip. That makes what Final Cut just sees as another clip, but it's a clip you can open and see your clip inside of it. That's all that is. If you take groups of them and you make a compound, then it's groups of them as a single clip. In this case, we're making a compound clip with one clip. Sounds redundant? But stick with me. Okay, so you take that compound clip, drop it on the timeline, edit, edit, edit. Upload a video to frame.io. Frame.io is an incredible, incredible service that allows you to upload a video. Your client can review the video while they're watching it. As soon as they hit the keyboard, it pauses and they can type bad edit, cut out the thing on my head, fix this, change the color, whatever. Any edit instructions you want to make. As soon as you start typing, it pauses the video so it's at the right time code. And then you can even draw on the screen. So you can go, erase this thing, draw on it. Incredible. And then you hit play and it keeps going and you just make your edits like this. The editor then gets to see all that. Not only can they see it on the frame.io interface, they can actually download a Final Cut project, a Premiere project. Is there anything else supported? There might be something else supported as well, that they can then bring into their editor and see the notes on the timeline in Final Cut or Premiere. It's incredible. And they go, okay, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to change, and so on. Really, really cool. Scoregasm's great name. Thank you very much for the contribution. If you could only buy 2 lenses for the GH5, I will hit that in just a moment. Let me finish this description and then I'll do that. Bring those instruction edits in and then you can make the edits. Now that's like a temporary thing. Eventually I don't want to have to do that stage, but it was like, we're going to do that to get you started. Okay, so forget about the whole frame.io thing. We've new library, new project, import clip, create as compound clip, drop compound clip onto the timeline and edit. Once the edit is done, you zip up the library, the entire library, and drop it into the Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever, and send that to me. So that'll be tiny, right? That'll be a few megabytes because there's no videos in it. I can then take that. Now, when he's edited it, it automatically created a half-size, half-resolution timeline. But I open up that timeline, which now has all this edited piece on it. I then open up the compound clip, and I see the original thing that he dropped on there. And it's an offline piece because it's missing, because I don't have that. Maybe I do, but it doesn't matter. I then import my original full-resolution file on top of it, which is frame accurate. It's exactly the same framing as the original was. It's just twice the size and much higher quality. Close that out. Change the project size back to 1920 by 1080, and all the edits are in place. Everything is perfect, frame accurate, lined up. It is a really efficient workflow for sending low resolution files to someone else to start the edit and then bring it back in. So totally interesting, dynamic, cool workflow that he refused to follow the instructions on. So There you go. Okay. Scoregasms asked, if you could only buy 2 lenses for the GH5, which would be the most versatile for both video and stills? Interesting. Thanks. Love your content. Well, I love you too. Most versatile. That's a tough one. I'm a fan of prime lenses. I do have the 12-60 zoom on here on my GH5 now, which is a great lens. Generally, zooms are not my favorite, but for vlogging, for general use, and probably more for video than stills, I do tend to lean towards the zooms. I really, even though this lens is not a fixed aperture, I really like it because of the versatility of the length. 12-60, so 24-120 equivalent. I think this is a great no-brainer lens. Just this is the one to get. So that's one. And then the second one, I would absolutely buy a prime, unless you know that you really want to cover the full range. If you really want to cover the full range of everything, then skip this 12-60, go for the 12-24. No, sorry, the 12-35 and the 35-100. Those are both fixed f2.8 lenses. So you'll have the 12-100 or 24-200 mil range covered in zoom. But if this is me personally, I'd probably buy that 12-60 and then I'd buy a really good prime. And that would be dependent on what your preferred focal length is. Do you like a wider field of view? Then get that 15mm Leica f1.7. Gorgeous, gorgeous lens. If you like something a little more narrow, maybe the 25-1.4, although it is admittedly not one of my favorite lenses, even though it's a Leica lens. I'm not in love with it, and there's no particular reason. I just don't love it. I do have it here. This is not a Panasonic lens, but I've talked about this guy before, the Zhongyi lens. This is a Chinese 25mm f0.95 lens, fully manual, so if you want autofocus, this ain't gonna be it. But I love this little lens on here. Or if you got the budget for it and you want the longer focal length, the Nocticron, 42.5mm f1.2, insane lens. So that, my second choice would be a prime. If again, you just want to cover the bases, then go for those 2 zooms. So hopefully that helps in there. All right, let's see, going back to the comments. Where was I? Here we go. Product Interna asked, another good system using Arca-Swiss is Peak Design. Yes, Peak stuff. Their capture mount is awesome for sticking your camera to a backpack, strap, or belt. Oh, interesting. Then boom, back on a tripod. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Let's see if my computer works. Let's check that one out. Let's see here, it's Peak Design. So cool little tidbit about Peak Design. They are based in San Luis Obispo, which is where I went to school. Unfortunately, their birth was long after my departure from that town, so I don't know them, but it's just kind of cool that that's where they're from. So let's go to this. There's Peak Design website. You said it's called the Capture. Oops, oh, come on, mouse. Let's see here. Clips, here we go, Capture. Capture Pro, and Capture Lens. And, oh wait, I'm confusing. I'm sorry, my bad. This is Peak Design. I'm thinking of something else. These guys aren't San Luis Obispo. That's who are the tripod guys in San Luis Obispo? Another company that does really cool stuff. Anyway, my bad. So the Peak Design though, yes, this, I actually do have a little bit of their stuff. I didn't recognize it until I pulled it up. So I do have one of these things. I can't find it. I cannot find it. So you're saying that that is Arca-Swiss as well. So that's great. That's good to know. So it would be this plate here is Arca-Swiss. Okay, so that plate there is what slides into the bracket that would be on your belt or a camera strap or shoulder strap, wherever it might be. And then that piece will go into the tripod. Excellent. Good to know. I love it. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay. Let's see here. Martin Pitt says, am I right in thinking that the GH5 only 4:3 ratio, I guess he means, gives 20 megapixel images? Well, okay, so the sensor in all Micro Four Thirds cameras is a 4:3 aspect ratio, unlike the Canon Nikons, which is a 2:3 aspect or 3:2 aspect ratio. So you have to be using the full resolution of the sensor to get 20 megapixel. Yes, that is correct, and it's 20.5 or 20, close to 21, where the hell it is. The GH5 does that, and the GX8 as well. The GX8 was the first camera to have the 20 megapixel sensor. So the GX8 also gives you that higher resolution sensor. Hopefully that is what you're asking. If that's not the answer to your question, then ask it again, please. Viral RMX says, off-topic question. Hey, they're all off-topic now. It's okay. But I'm stuck between the 25mm Mitacon Speedmaster 0.95 versus the Sigma 30 1.4. I haven't used either of those. Mitacon, oops, did I spell that right? Mitacon Speedmaster. Oh, look, 25 0.95. Okay, so that's very similar to this guy, the Zhongyi. Kind of even looks the same. Oh, that is the same. Mitacon Zhongyi. Is that what this thing's called? Mitacon? Mine doesn't say Mitacon. Mine just says Zhongyi Speedmaster. How funny. And then you look at it on B&H, and you see both names. Mitocon's Yongyi Speedmaster, but it says Yongyi there, so it is the same lens. Okay, so that we are talking about that same lens there. Sorry, the Mitocon part of it threw me. So obviously I love this lens, so we know that already. And you're deciding between that and the Sigma 31.4. Let's see here, let's also do a little price comparison. Oops, come here you. Sigma 31.4. There we go. So same price basically, a little bit cheaper. Obviously it's not as fast, 1.4 to 0.95. That's probably a stop to a stop and a half difference. That's a big difference there. Oh, that's the Sony one anyway. I don't know. I don't know. Is this autofocus? I guess if this is autofocus, it looks like it is. If autofocus is important to you, then I would say you have to go with that because this one is not. One of the things about this that I really like on the aperture ring is it's stepless. You get a very smooth aperture change. So if you wanted to use it for video and do change the aperture to change your light coming in, to change exposure, you would get a smooth, stepless design on that. So that's pretty cool. But again, this is the only one I've experience with, and I love it. It has a unique look to it, has a unique bokeh to it, has a unique lens flare to it. I just adore this lens. I really, really do. Can't say enough about it. And it's cheap. Alrighty, next up, Jorgen says, did you already check out DaVinci Resolve 14 and will you do a video about it? Okay. I looked at it at NAB. I didn't play with it. I haven't yet downloaded it, installed it. I have friends there. Actually, my former boss at Apple, the product manager of Final Cut, is the product manager of Resolve and product marketing manager for all of Blackmagic stuff, which is kind of cool. And he had offered to hook me up with their training course. So at some point, I am going to spend 2 days of intensive training learning Resolve because I'm really intrigued by it. Really intrigued. As a workflow option within the studio here, multiple editors using the same app and be able to access the same common media is crazy cool. The color grading tools in that, of course, are second to none. Now that they've added the Fairlight audio editing tools in there, audio sweetening, that I don't know anything about Fairlight, but I know it's kind of the bomb. And so that's really cool to have in there. My only reluctance is that I have gotten very used to the magnetic timeline of Final Cut Pro 10, and I really like it. So going back to the old way of working on a timeline is the only sticking point for me, but I am going to learn it. I'm going to take the time to do it. Will I do a video on it? I don't know. Probably, maybe, possibly. We'll see how it goes. No promises, though. Let's see here. Next up, Marvin says, does Affinity work with video? No, unless it might bring in a video file to pull frames out of. I haven't actually tried that, but no, it's not a video editor. Michael Siebke says, I'll agree regarding Affinity. I use my Adobe primarily for Lightroom, prefer Affinity to Photoshop, easier to do my work. Well, there you go. So even someone who's paying for the Lightroom and Photoshop bundle, unless you bought Lightroom, but probably are, then you're still preferring Affinity. Affinity's pretty cool. It's got some really nice features. And let's see here. Where are we now? We're getting into politics. Ooh, scary stuff. We're gonna ignore all that. Everybody's trying to help me with what the word was for that Final Cut thing, but we got it. We finally got it. Oh, damn! There goes the mouse scrolling off the screen. Here we go. Scroll back down. There we go. Jeff Horton says, have you heard of the new SLR Magic anamorphic lenses? Real anamorphic for the GH5. I have not. Ooh, that's exciting. SLR Magic. There we go. Anamorphot? Is that what this is called? Anamorphot. Maybe I have heard of those. Whoa, I can spell anamorphic. SLR Magic anamorphic lenses for, let's see, this is 2 micro four thirds because I'm seeing lots of stuff come up here. There's a set of 3 of them for $8,500. That seems a little, that's probably not it. Let's try this one. Here we go. SLR Magic anamorphic 1.3x. Oh, that's an adapter that goes over the lens. Okay, give me a name to search for, and I will see if I can find the exact thing you're talking about. I have not heard of them, but that sounds awesome. Marvin PA says lens for indoor sports. Indoor sports, I would say you want a longer lens, but not super crazy long. So probably that the 35 to 100, so your 70 to 200 millimeter equivalent f2.8. That's probably going to do you there. You know, it's one of those like indoor sports. You think, okay, I want really shallow depth of field. I don't want really shallow depth of field. I want a lot of light gathering, but with a lot of light gathering comes shallow depth of field. Sports, you probably don't want super shallow depth of field just because things are moving so quickly. It's not like you want the football player's face in focus and the ball out of focus unless you're doing artsy stuff. You probably want a little bit more depth of field than that. So I think that's a good choice. Probably crank up the ISO a little bit, shoot on that 70 to 200 equivalent. I think you'll be pretty good. Alrighty, and let's see what else is going on. Really Right Stuff. Thank you, Mark. Really Right Stuff is the company that's in San Luis Obispo. That's the name. I knew they had a really cool name. Yeah, they do amazing tripod gear as well. So if you're not familiar with them, check them out. So many good tripod options out there. Speaking of tripods, I've got a new one coming from B&H to try out. It's a new MeFOTO with this nitrogen video head. It's supposed to be the smoothest video head ever, if you believe their marketing. So one's coming in for me to review and show you guys, because that sounded cool. Michael Siebke says, regarding the GH5, is there any option to define which display mode is used by default after switching on the camera? Which display mode? Do you mean what's displayed on the screen, or do you mean whether it's the EVF or the monitor? Please clarify. It should be wherever you left it off. Should be the answer, but I'd have to try it if it's not the case. Martin Pitt says, I have the Leica 12-60 on the GH5, but when I change aperture, I don't see a change. Oh, am I in the wrong mode? Don't see. Well, okay, what can happen, this is I think a common common mistake. You could be in full manual mode, right? You've got manual exposure, manual shutter, and manual aperture, and you're changing it, and the exposure isn't changing on the screen because you're still in auto ISO. So the auto ISO is going to be compensating for that, giving you what it thinks should be an accurate image. So that might be the case. In this case, make sure you're in full manual, manual aperture, manual shutter speed, and manual ISO, and then any change you make, you will see it on screen. Or it could be that you don't have preview. You don't have the preview turned on, so you're not seeing the image in its exposure preview form. You're seeing just what the camera wants you to see. So that could be it as well. So look for either one of those. Marvin P. says, sounds like I'll be looking at Resolve 2. Excellent. I think it's sweet. It really seems to have come of age. Gadgets says, a great name. A post house I freelanced at in London just moved from Final Cut over to DaVinci Resolve, and I now have a full version with USB dongle to have Blackmagic Cinema camera. Awesome. Well, then all the more reason to check it out. With Resolve 14, the latest version, they dropped the price from $1,000 down to $300. Plus, there's still a free version, and the difference is noise removal. I think that's a big feature that's not in the smaller version, not in the free version. But the main thing, 10-bit support. So if you're shooting 10-bit on the GH5, you need the full Resolve, which at $300, you can afford it. If you're shooting 10-bit on GH5, you can afford a $300 piece of software to support it. Let's see here. Sheila says, SLR anamorphic lens package is very expensive. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at there. So let's see if... oh, Michael says, let's see if someone tells me what that the actual SLR magic lens I want to look for is, and I'll pull that up. Michael says the ABO is a German word. Sorry, it means subscription, right? So you're talking about the Adobe subscription. So Michael's saying that he has the Adobe subscription, so he has Photoshop, but still uses Affinity Photo instead because it's awesomer. All right, that's the extent of what has come up here on the questions. Interesting new format. I did want to get more questions during the original show, but I think because it was such a short show, there wasn't time for it. So that's okay. We'll try this again on, well, Monday's different. Monday's the Q&A session. So Tuesday's show will be the next normal show where we try the new format again. Hopefully this worked out. I feel a little bit less pressured to get through this part of it in a timely manner, which is good, definitely good. And we'll see how it continues on. Gadgets is clarifying, yes, no noise reduction in the free version of DaVinci Resolve we're talking about. Nice thing is you can carry the dongle around and use Resolve on any machine. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the dongle thing. I still think that's a little bit backwards of them. I got to be honest there, but it is what it is. Michael Siebke is saying display mode applies to both viewfinder and display. You can cycle through different modes using the display button. Okay, that's what you're talking about. All right, well, let's just see here. So he's saying, can you choose? Look, I painted it black. Isn't that cool? You can choose what. Can you choose what display mode is on by default? So there's no default setting. So I'm going to. So I'll cycle through. I'm in everything displayed right now. Is that on the display? Let me turn this on so you can see it. Okay, there we go. So we are seeing this now. So you see my full display. As I cycle through, you've got less display. You've got, well, on my screen, all I see is that, right? If we go back to this, that's all I see is that. I don't see the image, but on the output, go back to that, you do see the image. But imagine that's all you see on screen, and then back to the full on display. Cycle through. There we go. Full on display. Okay. So this is where I usually am. So you're saying when you well, say if I power the camera off, we don't want to, what's that? I'm going to turn it back on. Same display is coming up for me. Okay. So I got that same display. I'm going to take the lens off. So the display doesn't change because yeah, it's doesn't change. So yeah, it should just be wherever you left it last. That was my experience. That was my understanding of it. So If it's resetting for you, then that's weird. I don't know why it would do that, but it should just be wherever you left it last. Oh, good, more questions. Marvin CA says, this was good. Excellent, Marvin. Yeah, I'm glad this was good. Andy D says, time-lapse question. How come the camera cannot export to 4K at 60 FPS? Which camera? This one? Does this one not do that? I have no idea. I haven't tried that. Let's find out. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and pull that up, and you can, whoops, you can follow along. So let's get out of video mode. So go into a still mode. And I know it's black, it's coming back, come on, here we go, come on. Here we go, camera, give me, oh, come on. Okay, fine, we're gonna go to this while we wait for it to come back out. Oh, I can't, right, you're not gonna see this out because it's in still mode. I can change that. I have to change the still priority to video mode. That's how that works. Where do I do that? Where is that setting? I don't remember. Oh yeah, no, I think I know where to. Here we go. Picture mode in record. Oh, just set to video mode. That's weird. Okay, let's try the other one. No. Picture mode. Switch that back. I think I'm in the wrong one. Still. I'm trying to find the mode that basically resets my picture view into video. It's a weird setting. I actually have no idea why it's even there, except that I need it when I'm showing you picture features on this, doing the USB, the video out thing. I have no idea where it is. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know where that is. All right, I'll forget it. I'm not going to bother finding it. Let me just find this real quick. I'm going to go to time-lapse. I'm going to put the camera into time-lapse mode, don't I? That's time-lapse. Wait, is that time-lapse? No, that's not time-lapse. That's time-lapse. There we go. The camera's in time-lapse mode. And time-lapse animation. There we go. Mode, time-lapse shot. Let's see here. Time-lapse. Yep, that's what I want, not stop motion. Start time is going to be now. Shooting interval, we're going to set that to 1 second. And we're just going to shoot, not 1800. We're just going to shoot 10 real quick. Ah, come here. 0, 0. There we go. I'm sorry you guys can't see this. And that makes this a little bit less interesting. Set that and image count 10, 1, start time now. Okay. Okay, shooting the 10 pictures. And then I'm going to build a movie out of that and see if it lets me do 4K 60. I didn't set this to, maybe I should have changed the image resolution. Well, anyway, let's just see what we get. Time-lapse shot complete. Create video now, yes. Now it's going to go, I got to take this off because now it's trying to output to the screen there and then it's going to show me weird things. Okay, frame rate 24. Oh, I'm in 24 hertz mode, so I'm not going to get anything over 24. But I could get 48, but it's not showing me 48. So that might well be the case that you can't do 60. That would be weird. Okay, let me change the frequency of the output here back to NTSC so that I can try this again. Power cycle the camera. Back open. Time lapse is still on. I'm going to actually set my train's coming. I'm going to set my frame size as well to be 16 by 9. Okay, there's that. And let's make sure I got JPEG only. I don't want RAW. Let's go JPEG only. Okay. Great, it's doing 10 shots. Whee! It's doing 10 shots. It's going to be a very exciting time lapse, I'm telling you. And that's complete. And it's going to ask me to make a movie. Create movie now, yes. Okay, record quality, here we go. 30 is the max. You are correct, sir. Wow, interesting. Oh, this is, okay, let me see if I can get this up on screen. Definitely not going to get that on screen. 60 is here, but it's grayed out. I know you can't see that, but 60 is there, but it's grayed out. It just says this item can't be selected. That's really interesting. I wonder why. Sequence normal, MP4, 4K, set that back to 30. Huh, I can't choose 60. That is really, really interesting. Okay, I'm going to have to make a note of that and find that out. Why can't you create 60 frame per second outputs from the time lapse? Obviously, you could bring it into your computer, you could output it that way, but that is really interesting. Huh. Alrighty. I will try and find an answer for you. Ryan, please write that down, else I'm going to forget. All right, let's see here. Let's scroll back. A lot of stuff came up while I was trying that. Time lapse. Oh, here we go. Sheila says, I was using the touch to focus feature, and each And with each touch, the screen dropped to black for 2 to 3 seconds. Is that normal? No, but I'll tell you what's happening. It's because your hand is getting too close to the viewfinder, and it's causing it to go black because it thinks that you're trying to put your hand up, your eye up to the viewfinder. I'll bet that's it. Because no, touch to focus, the screen should not go black. That's the only reason I could think of that would happen. Andy D says, the GH5 lets you export 30 FPS. Yes, it can handle to record 60 in video, but will not export to 60 in 4K. So that's exactly what we just experienced here, but I want to find out why, because that 60 is there, but it's grayed out, which tells me there's something else I could change that would allow me to do 60, so that I have to find out. Scoregasms asks, is it technically possible for Panasonic to enable charging via USB in a future firmware update? According to Sean Robinson, no. That question came up in the pre-release videos, those long interviews that we did. We'll link to those right here. And that question did come up. The answer was no. I don't really believe it, though. Because you got USB charging on this camera, on the GX85. Like, obviously, it could be that the wires just simply don't exist, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing that. It seems like such a great feature to have, to be able to power it through there. He says no, so we gotta go with that. But I don't know. I think it should work. I'm with you guys on that one. Michael Siebke says display mode. Maybe I'm confused by intensively using the custom modes, and maybe the GH5 is saving the last use display mode for each custom mode. Yes, that is very true. The custom mode, he's talking about the C1, 2, C3 is on here. We did a video on that, custom modes. Click on that to watch that. Absolutely stores everything that is not a physical dial. So it will also store your display mode. That is absolutely true. Whew, all right, let's see here. People talking about DaVinci Resolve Beta 2 of version 14 is out. That's awesome. Andy D says, thank you so much for testing this. It drove me nuts. I can record at 60, but not in time-lapse. Strange. Yeah, I'm going to find out about that. Sheila says, now that is what I'm talking about for the tutorials. Why is that thing grayed out? Yeah, so we're going to find out because I just don't know. We will find that out. Viral RMX says, what is your top update you would like to see happening in upcoming firmware updates? Ooh. Ooh. So something that's not, okay, well, that's easy, actually. Something that's not already planned that I would like to see in a firmware update is the exact same thing that Casey asked for, a better way to see that you're recording. You guys want to know what my, no, I shouldn't tell you. I have an idea and I requested it. I shouldn't tell you. What should I tell you? Does it matter if I tell you? Let me think about this. It's not a secret. Yeah, what the hell? I'm going to tell you what I requested, what my idea was. And if it shows up, you'll know that it came from me. So the problem is when you hit record, let's go back into video mode here. Back into video mode, and well, I'd show it to you, but I dropped the cable. When you're recording, just hit record. You get a little blinking red light on here, which I know it's really hard for you guys to see, but there's a little tiny blinking red light, tells you it's recording, and you get a little count up that tells you how many seconds of recording. That's it. That's the only indicator that it's recording. That came up in one of these videos before someone asked about it, and I thought, I'm just so used to it that that's normal. I thought, well, that's odd. And then I grabbed an old Canon camera and I hit record on there, and the red light stayed on. Okay, so I can see it, and I can see why it's a problem, because you glance down. If you happen to glance down when it's in the blink off stage, you might think it's not recording. You hit the record button, and now you just stopped recording. Oops, that'd be bad. So, obvious simple thing would be to put a little red light on there that's always on, but that's too simple. Here's my idea. I want to see a red box around the entire frame that doesn't pulse, that's just there all the time. It can be semi-transparent, so you're not hiding anything. The Ninja Assassin, all the Ninja products do this. When you hit record, there's a red box around it. I want to see that same thing on here. So if that comes in a firmware update, it came from me. There you go. That's my top feature that I want to see. Marvin PA says, have you seen Max's latest video on the GH5 versus A6500? Yeah, the live one. I actually watched most of it yesterday while it was live. I had to leave, so I couldn't see the whole thing. This is actually nice about the GH5. He is nice about the GH5. He loves the GH5. He really does. You know, the autofocus on the Sony is superior. There you go. That's what you're going to get. But there's obviously always going to be advantages, disadvantages of both. But he loves the GH5. He is a big fan of it. It's just he, like most, wish the autofocus was better. What are you going to do? No, Max is a great guy. I love him. We had a lot of fun together. Okay, now we're really at the end. Whew, see, now we went really long, didn't we? But that's okay. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the new format. That's it. We're going to bail out of here. The Foursquare thing is going to come up again. And on that, if somehow you watched this whole thing and didn't watch the original video, we'll link to that there, and you can watch that as well. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Take care. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.